You are the best thing in my life. Sunny days and starry nights that never end. You make me laugh, you make me cry, you make me come alive. I'll come alive again. I'll come alive. I'll come alive again.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my next episode of Celeste's Quest for Her Best Life. This is my Hanukkah episode. We're going to learn everything about Hanukkah because I never knew anything about it. I started right at the source with a Hasidic rabbi named Rabbi Eilfort from the Chabad of Costa. And he gave me all the deets and all the information I ever needed to know about Hanukkah. But I also decided to prepare from scratch a Hanukkah feast. No, I'm just kidding. I went down to Milton's in Del Mar, which is this amazing Jewish delicatessen. My wife ended up having a hot pastrami on rye, which was amazing. I highly recommend. I have not divulged or tried anything on my spread yet, but I was able to pick up a lot of traditional Jewish foods. Some of this fare would be regular food you would eat throughout the year, and then some of it is special just for Hanukkah, but you could still eat it throughout the year. I decided to start with one of the most common foods of the Jewish tradition. This is a matzo ball soup. It's like a chicken noodle soup. There is chicken in here, there's carrots, and there's some noodles, and then there's a broth, and then this big ball of crushed crackers, matzahs, made into this big, kind of like what you would think was a meatball, but it's a cracker ball. It's a matzo ball, and it's put right in the middle of that soup. That is just regular fare that you would have all the time. This is a cabbage roll. I am not sure how often a year you have this, but it's cabbage wrapped around meat in a broth of cabbage, and it looks like a tomato base. This is a very common bread. It's called challah bread. It is a very traditional, common Jewish bread, and it is served throughout the year. These are my favorite. I've had these so many times. I've never had any that look like this. I like this little torpedo shape. These are latkes, potato latkes, and they are shredded potatoes, and they're served typically with sour cream and applesauce. Now, this is an item that you would more likely have as a breakfast or lunch item or a snack during Hanukkah. I didn't know much about what kosher meant, but I was talking to the folks at Milton's delicatessen, and they told me that part of it is never mixing meat with dairy products. So these are cheese blintzes, and then there's berries and cherries, some blueberry sauce and cherry sauce to go with it. And then this is more of a common food during Hanukkah, is this jelly donut. I know, a jelly donut. And it is literally just a donut filled with jelly. You'll hear the rabbi talk about that a little bit. He'll touch on it. And then this is, I'm going to try to pronounce this right. Please bear with me. It's a hamantashun. There's definitely a lot of dessert items to choose from. Oftentimes for dinner, you might have either a brisket or a roast chicken as well during Hanukkah. So after my meeting with the rabbi, he ended up gifting me this incredible Hanukkah in a box gift set. And with this gift set, I got a little, not what you would traditionally see as a menorah, but it's a little tabletop menorah here, which came with the candles. Now, nothing is lit yet because the sun is knocked down, but as soon as the sun is down, I can light tonight this candle. You're supposed to light it the night before or the eve before the first day of Hanukkah. So this would be the first light, and you light them from right to left. This might show up opposite for you, but anyway, so the first night you would light the one candle. The next night you would put a second candle, but you would light that candle first and then light this candle. And the third night you would light that candle and then light the next candles until you have all 8 candles lit in the menorah. I've got specific instructions here with this instructional guide on how to light your menorah. And it is generally placed in a doorway or opposite the mezuzah, or you can use a window. Also, in this little Hanukkah kit. I got a how to make a dreidel out of clay, and it has clay and a mold and paint even, so I can make my own dreidel. But that might take a little time, so they've also included some dreidels for me. I tried dreidling, and apparently I'm not that great at it. I'm fine with tops. Tops seem to be good, but I need to practice my dreidel work. So when it comes to the dreidels, here is how the game works. On each side of the dreidel, which you can barely see, but I'll try to bring one up for you, is a symbol. So one symbol represents shin. It kind of looks like a three-pronged like candle, and it says pay 2 into the pot. So children would play the dreidel game, and they would have these little coins called gelt coins, but each coin is played, and so when you land on this one that's called shin, it says you would pay 2 into the pot. So if you only have 3, and let's just say these are 3 equal coins, then I would pay 2 if I got that. And then this other one that looks kind of like a pie symbol, but it's broken, this is called hay, and you would take half the pot. So if there were only 2 coins in the pot, you would take 1. And then the next one, it kind of looks like an upside down Y. This is called a gimel. And a gimel lets you take the whole pot. So we want the gimel, right? And then there's another one that is kind of looks like a music note to me, and it's called nun or none. Basically, you get nothing. And so I would say none. It sounds like the better way to pronounce it, right? Anyway, so the rabbi tells this whole story about the origins of Hanukkah. And one thing we don't talk about is that the dreidel game was played by children so that they had prohibited them studying the Torah. So children would be studying the Torah, and then when an officer or somebody would walk by, they would pretend like they were playing the dreidel game instead, and they would hide their books really fast. So it was a little diversion to play the dreidel game, and so this game has persisted. And actually this dreidel I found was a little easier to spin than those other ones. Oh, see? What did I get? I got none. Enjoy the interview with the rabbi. He was wonderful, great storyteller, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Hanukkah, and make sure to remember that the purpose and the reason behind this is to spread your light, spread your love, spread compassion and goodness and kindness. And thank you so much for watching my show today. I'm here at the Chabad at La Costa to meet with Rabbi Eilfort and find out all about Hanukkah. Good morning. I'm with Rabbi Eilfort here at the Chabad of La Costa. And I've never met the rabbi before. I was introduced by my friend Deborah Bridge, who had me reach out. And we're gonna learn all about Hanukkah today. And I know nothing about Hanukkah other than there's a menorah.
Okay, a menorah, here you go. Here's a menorah. You see that? That's just one that we're giving out to people.
And that's not the traditional one we see that looks like a candelabra. That's just a little different.
See the stained glass looking right there?
Yes, there's stained glass all around this sanctuary here, and
Right.
It's got beautiful Hebrew words, and it's got different symbols, including a menorah.
Correct.
Okay, so what exactly is being celebrated or observed during Hanukkah?
Okay, so Hanukkah is an 8-day holiday. It happened historically about 2,500 years ago. And what happened was the Syrian Greeks had conquered the Holy Land, Israel, and the Jewish people were subjected to them. And they decided to initiate, the Syrian Greeks, an attack on Judaism, on Jewish practice and the free practice of the Jewish faith. There were things about Judaism that they just disagreed with. They did not like the idea of things that they didn't understand, things that they felt were irrational within Judaism. They decided to declare war on them, outlaw them, and so on. So a small ragtag group of Jewish soldiers rebelled, and they actually were from the priestly class. And what I mean by that is the center of Jewish life in those days was the Holy Temple. And the Holy Temple was a place where The service was run on a daily basis. There were no local synagogues in those days. There was one central holy temple built by King Solomon, Solomon's temple in Jerusalem on the mountain.
Just one.
Just one. That was it. Yeah. And there were pilgrimage holidays that they would come a few times a year to see and be seen and be at the Holy Temple and do the service there, etc. There were things, of course, they did locally on their own personal level, but this was the house of God, it was known as. Well, when the Syrian Greeks conquered Israel, they quickly switched it out and stopped being a house of God, and it became a house of gods, lowercase g. They brought in their whole idol worshiping approach, and basically this invalidated the Holy Temple for Jewish people to use and so on. Not an uncommon phenomenon in those days that people, when they would conquer each other, they would get rid of, expunge any local religion and instill their own. So this is what the Syrian Greeks did to the Jewish people. It got worse and worse and worse. The oppression became more and more dramatic until finally this group of from the priestly class rebelled. They were known as the Maccabees. You might have heard of the Maccabees. That's actually an acronym for for the Hebrew words Micha Mocha Boelim Hashem, who is like you amongst the gods. In other words, there's one true God, and a Maccabee also means a hammer. So that's what they named themselves, and they started a guerrilla war against the very powerful Syrian Greeks. Ultimately, they won the war, and they went back into the Holy Temple, cleared out and cleaned out all the idols that had been brought in, and re-established service of God in His house, in the Holy Temple. This is one of the meanings of the word Hanukkah. It means to dedicate, because they rededicated God's house to the service of God. Now, in the service that was done on a daily basis in the temple, in the Holy Temple, one of the things was the lighting of the menorah. The menorah that they had was a 7-branched candelabra made entirely of gold, by the way, incidentally. One piece of gold, the Bible describes it, and they had great craftsmen who were able to fashion from one piece of gold this beautiful, ornate, huge candelabra. They wanted to reinstitute the service in the Holy Temple. So what did they do? They cleaned out the idols, and the first thing they wanted to do was start lighting the menorah again. That was part of the daily service. To light the menorah, there were very specific strictures, criteria that had to be met. So it was lit using olive oil.
Okay.
The olive oil had to be made in a special way, and only the first drop from each olive that was squeezed could be used, the purest, the best of the best. No dregs, no leftovers, only the best. And in fact, it had to be produced elsewhere in the olive-bearing region of the land, not right next door to Jerusalem. So it took about 8 days, the round trip. Here's the interesting thing. They had plenty of olive oil on hand in the Holy Temple of Jerusalem. However, each jar, it was put into jars 1 day's worth at a time. And it had the seal of the high priest on it. It was not considered kosher, in other words, usable, unless it had that seal on it. This was one of the particulars that the Syrian Greeks attacked, the idea of kosher, because they felt it was irrational. So what had they done? They had gone around purposely breaking the seal of the high priest on all of the jars, so that they wouldn't have kosher olive oil to use. So that they decided that they were not going to light the menorah unless they had the right olive oil. We're just not going to do it. We're going to do it the best way. And miraculously, this is one of the miracles, they found one jug that they hadn't broken the seal. They took that jug, they put it in, and meanwhile they said, what are we going to do? I mean, it's only enough for 1 day. It was 1 day portions, and it takes 8 days till they're going to get back. We're going to light it. The rest is up to God. We have to do our part. God will do His part. Miraculously, it lasted for 8 days. That's why we celebrate for 8 days.
That's what I was going to say. Let me guess what the second miracle was.
Very good. So the miracle was finding the jug. The miracle was it lasting 8 days. But really, the overarching big miracle was this ragtag group would be able to drive off the Syrian Greeks, who were far better. I mean, they were a professional army. These guys had been priests in the Holy Temple. They were used to praying. They were used to, the sacrifices, incense, and lighting menorahs. They weren't used to fighting wars. But miraculously, they won. And they drove off the Syrian Greeks. So the symbolism is very important here because it represents the idea that right makes might. That when you're on the right, doing the right thing, when you're trying to fight for freedom, for religious freedom, and that's why it's really a very universal holiday, Hanukkah is, and that's why we light the menorah outside to spread the light, that everyone should understand we're all beneficiaries when we get to serve God the way we choose.
So it's wonderful to get this experience and to get your knowledge and information to find out why, and if Gentiles and non-believers of the Jewish faith can celebrate certain aspects of Hanukkah. So that's excellent to know.
I'm a big believer that everyone can add light into the world. Every single person. We are all walking, we all have a spark, a soul, we call it. In Hebrew it's called a neshama. And we describe it as like a candle. It's like a lit candle. And one small candle lights up a huge area.
That's exactly. One of my favorite quotes is, "Not all the darkness in the universe can extinguish the light of a single candle."
And how do you light your life up? You be kind to another person, help another person. Don't be so judgmental. We shouldn't be judgmental of each other. The world is really divided right now, and there's a lot of darkness and a lot of hatred, and we've got to focus on lighting a light and seeing the light in each other, seeing the godliness in each other.
I love that. So aside from lighting the menorah every single night of the 8 days, is there a certain time period? Yes, okay.
So you light the menorah at the very beginning of the night.
And what other traditions are practiced during this time?
In the full story of Hanukkah, one of the high priests, his daughter, whose name was Judith, was a key player. She helped bring about the miracle. So therefore, our custom is while the menorah is lit, women don't do any work. They take the time off to just let the men do the stuff, and the women should kick up their heels and or sit back, relax, and enjoy. But specifically, that's one of our customs.
It's 8-day vacay for women.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately for women, it doesn't stay lit for 24 hours. But at least while it's lit, they should take it easy and enjoy.
Okay.
Other things we do is, for example, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. That's one of the Jewish themes. So what we do is we eat foods with oil in it to remind ourselves of the miracle of the menorah and so on. So we eat latkes. I don't know if you ever heard of latkes.
I love latkes.
Potato pancakes fried in oil, or a lot of people eat jelly donuts, which are fried in oil. And why jelly donuts, by the way? It's interesting because when you open up the middle, the good part's right there in the center.
Yeah.
And that's often the way of life. On the outside, it looks like one thing, but when you open it up and you say, oh, there's riches here inside, there's really something special. So we eat special foods. Okay. We do different things for the kids. For example, we have these little things called Dreidels. And there are 4 letters on the side of the dreidel which stand for Nes Gadol Haya Sham. A great miracle happened there. And what we do is to make the game really interesting. You make money. You bet, right? But we don't bet real money. What we do is we bet this. Chocolate coins. In Yiddish called Geld. And this is the way we pass it to the next generation and the next generation.
So do you have these dinners and these family gatherings every night during Hanukkah?
Well, you're asking a Chabad rabbi. So let me explain to you what Chabad is about for a moment. Okay. We're here to try and bring the light of Judaism to our friends, our neighbors, particularly Jewish people, but anyone who's interested. And so we're busy on Hanukkah. Yes, we try and, of course, dedicate time to our own families, but we also try and dedicate time to our family. And so therefore we do different events. For instance, this Chabad house, tomorrow night we're doing a drive-through because in the days of COVID, it has to be COVID safe and we have to follow all the rules and so on, the governmental mandates. So it's a drive-through Hanukkah experience where we have displays of different parts of the story that people drive through. It's going to be at the Forum in Carlsbad tomorrow from 4 to 6. We're going to have some live music going with Hanukkah songs, and we're going to light a giant menorah. There are more than 25 Chabad centers sprinkled throughout San Diego County. And what we are going to do is a ginormous, huge, beautiful Hanukkah concert on Monday night at the Del Mar Fairgrounds.
Wow.
And going to give a special discount code to KOCT viewers. And who we're having is a fellow named Gad Elbaz. He's an Israeli singer. He's phenomenal. He's like dynamite. He's overflowing with energy and power, and he's got a beautiful voice, and he's just very upbeat.
Okay.
So 4 to 6 at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and people can find out about that at thesanDiegoconcert.com.
And that's on Monday, you said?
Monday night, yeah.
Monday night.
It starts at 4:30. Gates open at 3, and then the opening act will be Rabbi Yossi Ruddle. He's a local rabbi. He actually happens to be my son-in-law. Very talented and upbeat, joyous young man. And he's going to play some songs. And then Gad Elbaz is going to sing. It's going to be and the giant menorah lighting. And it's a drive-in. So everyone stays in their car, contactless.
How
They'll
fun.
they'll have a ticket. They'll show it at the window. It'll get scanned, and they can go in and park. They don't have to crack their window. It'll be heard through the radio. And it's just amazing. And anyone who puts KOCT in when they buy their ticket will get a 50% discount.
Awesome. My viewers will love that.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's fantastic. Is that everything we need to know about Hanukkah?
That is the tip of the iceberg.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, those are the main points. The
Okay.
main point is a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness.
I just have one more question for you, and that's just to tell me a little bit about yourself and how long have you been a rabbi, and here at the Chabad here, were you raised in this area? Just a little bit about you.
Okay.
And say your name for me properly.
Okay, my name is Yeruchem Eilfort. It's a 5-star name. The first name is not easy to say. The last name is not easy to say. So very unique. Yeruchem Eilfort. Yeruchem, by the way, is a Hebrew word. Samuel the prophet, his grandfather's name was Yeruchem. That's where it comes from biblically. It means he will have mercy. My wife and I founded it. We're co-directors here of Chabad of Costa. We founded it in late 1989, so we're newcomers. And we started it by using something most people are not familiar with these days. It's called a phone book. And we started calling Jewish-sounding names and inviting them to get involved. And that's what we did. We built it up. Now we have 3 couples here working to bring programming to people, services. These days our regular Saturday, Sabbath services are kind of different. We don't use indoors anymore because of we use the breezeway. That's the area out there, and it's socially distanced and masked and all that according to the rules. But it's a tough time as far as that kind of stuff goes. So what we decided to do was to bring it to the people. Instead of bringing the people to us, we're going to bring it to the people. That's why you have that Hanukkah in a box kit.
Yes.
I have 8 children, 5 of whom are married. Let me think. 12 grandchildren right now, thank God. And that's who I am. I was ordained in 1988 as a rabbi at the Chabad Yeshiva. The Yeshiva is a rabbinical seminary in Chabad World Headquarters in Brooklyn, New York, an area called Crown Heights. And that's where my wife and I met after I was ordained, and where we got married, and then we moved out here to try and get something going.
And have you been to Jerusalem?
Only about 24 times.
You probably take groups out there.
We do. I have my father-in-law lives there.
Okay.
May he live and be well. He actually has COVID right now.
Oh no!
But he has it without
Prayers
symptoms.
to
He has asymptomatic COVID. Thank God.
Another miracle.
Yeah.
Well, blessings to you and your family.
Thank you.
And actually, I was raised Catholic, but we always said shalom in my family. So I still use it.
Good. It's good. You know who is named after the concept? I have a son named Shalom, by the way.
You do?
Yeah.
And my Hebrew name is Sarah, by the way.
Do you know what that means?
Princess?
That's right.
Yes.
And then have you ever heard of King Solomon?
I have.
So in Hebrew, his name is Shlomo, which is related to the word shalom, peace.
Okay.
It also, the word shalom means to be full, complete.
That's a great word.
It's a very beautiful word.
Well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'm here at Milton's in Del Mar, and we're going to go pick up a traditional Hanukkah dinner. We're here at Milton's in Del Mar. You can see they have a lot of different pastries and desserts and cookies. all kinds of things. The jelly donut is the most traditional, served on Hanukkah, and then there are the regalas, there are other cookies, not so traditional, but definitely look delicious. They have a lot of challah bread that has been freshly baked. They have bagels. They have all kinds of gluten-free and other kinds of breads and crackers that you can buy here at Milton's. Right now, dining is outside, of course, because of COVID. And of course, they have a wonderful deli selection here of different kinds of meats and sandwiches.
This is a fictional story to illustrate a true point.
Okay.
So there was a fellow who had made a very great business empire for himself. He worked really, really hard for a long time. Finally, it was time for him to retire. So he had 3 sons, and he had to decide which of the 3 sons would take over as CEO. He decided to make a contest. He gave to each of the 3 sons a massive warehouse. He gave them each an envelope with $1,000 cash, and he gave them each 1 week to buy the most of whatever they could buy, and whoever could fill the most of his warehouse within a week for $1,000 obviously used his noggin, used his head, and therefore would be the one who's most creative, and most industrious, etc. You have to work hard, you have to scramble and hustle, and he'll be the one to take over. That's the challenge. So off the 3 sons went. Son number 1 takes his $1,000, and he says, okay, what do I do with $1,000? He went to Walmart, because everyone knows you can get good deals at Walmart. So off he goes to Walmart, and he's looking at through the window, like, is there anything there that attracts him that he could buy in the Walmart? And in the reflection, he sees a store. It's Aaron Brothers Art Mart. Frames for sale for a cent. Now, obviously, if you ever tried that, I learned the hard way. They didn't really mean for a cent. They mean if you buy one, you got one for
get one for a penny.
So he went in and he found that out. But while the guy was telling him that, he noticed they had these packing styrofoam peanuts. Now, styrofoam peanuts are dirt cheap, and they are made for one purpose: to fill up space. So he looked and he wrote down. He said, I got an idea. And so he called direct to the supplier, and he got a whole bunch of styrofoam peanuts for $1,000. In fact, he was able to fill about a quarter of his warehouse, right, with his styrofoam peanuts. So it was great. Meanwhile, the second son, he was a little bit sneaky. So he was following the first son, and he saw what he went through. He saw him go, he saw him look, he saw him get the styrofoam peanuts. But he looked into the Walmart, and he saw they were at the end of the year model, and their garbage cans, they were trying to unload the garbage cans because they had a New Year's model, much sleeker designed garbage cans. So he said, "Oh." He went to the floor manager. He said, "I know you got to get rid of those. That's why you're selling them so cheap. I'll take your entire lot, but you have to deliver them, and I'm going to give you $1,000." So he, wheeled and dealed, and he got a tremendous deal on the garbage cans, and he was able to fill up like almost a third of the warehouse with garbage cans. The third son, he was a philosopher, and the other 2 were mocking him. What are you doing? He said, "Don't worry, I got my own plan. You're going to throw away this opportunity? Pops is offering you, and he is going to be angry if you don't do something." I mean, this guy was a type A, the father, obviously. That's how he... "No, it's okay. It'll be fine. I'm okay." "All right, suit yourself." The big day comes. It's a week later. They go into the first one's warehouse, and they open the doors, and there's all these styrofoam peanuts. What am I going to do with all these styrofoam? "Papa, you said all that matters is that it should be, $1,000 worth, and how much space it fills. This fills a lot of space." You're right. Okay, he calmed down. His blood pressure had spiked a little bit. He turned a little red, but okay. They went to the second one's warehouse. Fire opened the doors. What's in there? Garbage cans. He said, "Well, now I know what I can do with all those styrofoam peanuts." What use do we... "Papa, you said all of that take up space for $1,000. Look, you know how many garbage cans I got here for $1,000? I wheeled an idea." Okay. They went to the third one's warehouse. Big, cavernous, emptiness, nothing. And then the blood pressure really started to spike. Pops, relax, come with me. And he took his father's hand calmly and walked him right into the middle of this vast emptiness. He took out of his pocket a little candle like that, and he lit it, and he held it over his head, and all of a sudden, the entire warehouse was filled with light. And he said, here's your $1,000 back. So needless to say, you know who became the next CEO of the company, and that's how it became a smashing success. Light has tremendous power. Don't underestimate the power of light.
I have to say it was an absolute pleasure to meet the rabbi, and the food from Milton's was wonderful. I enjoyed everything, and I highly recommend you checking out Milton's and exploring more about religions that may be different to you and their celebrations as well as their traditions. So happy Hanukkah, everyone. Thank you so much, and be sure to spread the light of love everywhere you go. Of course, we had to save dessert for last. My friend Sarah Nicole Dolgen decided to share her family tradition of making Hanukkah cookies with her kids. And she did this in this special video. She's a virtual healthy cooking consultant with Cookin' with Love. And I'll be sure to share her Instagram with you. Thank you so much, and happy Hanukkah.
Hey, it's Sarah here. I wanted to share with you, and thank you, Celeste, for doing this. Our Hanukkah tradition, which has actually been going on my whole life, and now my children are a part of it as well, and I have a 3 and a 6-year-old. My 6-year-old is used to this, my 3-year-old is starting to remember it. We make Hanukkah cookies every year with my parents. My mom makes the dough, we roll it out, we sprinkle it, first we put frosting on, then we sprinkle it. It's a big mess, it's super fun. This is what they look like before. And it's a tradition that we've been doing way back since I can remember with my grandmother. And during COVID, it's been a little challenging. So actually my mom this year made the cookies, and then I picked them up safely, and then we FaceTimed with my parents and decorated the cookies all together. It was so special. My kids loved it just as much as if we were in person. There's a lot of ways to work around things these days. And one of the things that we did this year, which we've been doing for many years, was we made our Hanukkah cookies gluten-free so that they could share them also with their dad, who has celiac disease and cannot eat gluten. So the kids, although they go between 2 homes right now, still had the experience with both parents. So I think it was a win-win, and you can do anything when you're cooking with love.
A lot of frosting.
Okay.
And I dip it in the sprinkles to know how the cookie and the frosting and the sprinkles are going to taste to make them good.
So, but then you eat it. But how does it get onto the cookie if you're eating all the frosting and the sprinkles?
I'm not.
Oh, I see. And this is Sam's process? Sam, I think we're good on these guys.
Mommy, don't see me yet. What happens when I put this on my finger?
Yes, please. I want to see. What happens?
Mommy.
Hey. So, one thing I just want to share about our holiday tradition is that we always gather, of course, around the table for a meal. And I have found that no matter what your situation is, whether you are in an apartment or a home, a house of any kind, no matter what the layout is, the kitchen is the heart of the home. And everybody is always in the kitchen. And so when we do Hanukkah or any other Jewish holiday, in my entire life and in my adult life as well, everyone's in the kitchen. And everyone's just like in the kitchen, around the island or around the table or whatever, and a part of the cooking experience. So one of the things that I love about the holidays is that. It's just this togetherness. Aviva, what's your favorite part of when
Hanukkah, yes!
What's your favorite part of when we do holidays? Is it the cooking part or the dancing part? What's your favorite part?
Well, my favorite is cooking, dancing, lighting the menorah, and how there's 8 nights of our one holiday.
There you have it, folks. But I just wanted to share that my favorite part of all of our holidays is the togetherness. And even when we cannot be together because of COVID and this mess we're in, we have found ways to work around it. And we did FaceTime Hanukkah cookie decorating with my parents. And we have done all of our holidays this year on Zoom with our family, and we all make meals still, and we all gather around the kitchen, and we're all in the, at the table together, and we're on our computers, and we can still do it. So as long as you bring the love to the table, you can make anything work.